television presenter Holly Willoughby will be sentenced later today.
37-year-old Gavin Plum, seen here during his arrest last year, was charged after he unwittingly disclosed plans online to an undercover police officer in the United States.
In 2006, the former security guard from Harlow was handed a suspended sentence after targeting two women in two separate incidents.
One of those victims has for the first time been talking about the continuing impact his attack has had on her life. Our correspondent, Charlotte Gallagher, has more.
Before Gavin Plum plotted the kidnap, rape and murder of Holly Willoughby, he targeted 4 other women and teenage girls. Maria is one of them. Plum attempted to kidnap her from a train.
I remember the train being empty. There was another girl. She got onto the same carriage as I did. She sat somewhere in the middle. I went to the back. When I noticed that somebody came and sat right in front of me, and I thought, well, the carriage is empty.
She's never spoken before about what happened to her, but agreed to speak to me on the condition her voice was disguised.
He passed me a note. I thought it's just some piece of paper. I didn't even look what he was doing. I ignored it. Then he pushed it forward for me to read, and when I read it, it was something along the lines of, get off the train with me, be quiet, don't do anything, get off the train with me and nothing will happen to anybody. He had a rope and replica gun on him, and as I read that note, it was only then I looked at the person. So my first impression was that he is huge. I've no chance. So there was this moment when I was just frozen and scared. But it was also disbelief. I thought, maybe he's joking. It's absurd. But he started pointing and showing me to stay quiet. And he started approaching me with his hands. He held his hand on my knee and was indicating that we're going to go. In the note it said, get off with me at the next station. And after the initial freeze and disbelief, I realised what was going on. And I was frightened. That feeling was growing because I started realising that this massive man wants to get me off the train. I knew the next station is just a small village. At this point of time, there'll probably be nobody there. It's surrounded by bushes and woods, and I had all the worst scenarios cooking in my head. And I thought, if I get off that train, he can do anything. And so my thought was not to get off that train at any cost.
The other woman in the carriage noticed Maria was in distress and raised the alarm. Gavin Plum fled, but was arrested after trying to kidnap another woman from a train. He was given a suspended sentence for those crimes. He'd later go on to falsely imprison 2 teenage girls in the shop he worked at. Do you feel that if he'd have got a custodial sentence, if he'd been sent to prison after he did what he did to you, do you feel it may have stopped Gavin Plum from committing the crimes he went on to do?
I believe so. I believe that lack of punishment was only encouragement. He could go unpunished doing whatever he did. If he got away with it, why would he not try again?
What happened with Plum has changed how Maria views men.
Potentially every man can be a perpetrator, and I understand that so many women think along the same lines. A large man sitting right next to a girl, that's potential danger. It's really sad, but that's just one of those takeaways from that unfortunate story for me, that when I look at men, I very often do that quick judgment. So what level of danger are they?
And that's all men. When you see a man, you think, is this person dangerous to me?
Yes.
How did you feel when the Holly Willoughby case, hit the newspapers, and presumably the police told you, look, the person who did this to you has been arrested?
He did something that was bad enough to finally find him guilty and keep him in custody, to keep him away from society. I do feel for Holly because obviously she had to go through it in the spotlight, and it must be difficult. You do not want your name to be attached to a person like Gavin Plum. And this is one of the reasons I want to remain anonymous. I don't want to be associated with him in any way.
How do you feel about Gavin Plum now, when you think about Gavin Plum?
I feel like he lost his life. Anybody has capacity to have a wonderful life ahead of them. You just give in to some mad, sick fantasies, to your desires, to your ego, and you lose your life. He has, in my eyes, he's nothing in life. And it makes him, in a way, more dangerous, you know, a person who's nothing to lose. No ability to control himself. I almost feel pity for him.
Charlotte Gallagher, BBC News.